Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 155 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. In this episode, we are going to continue on our series in which we're talking about you want to get into long-range shooting. And in this one, we're going to have three different topics we're going to cover. Number one, welcome to Harbor Freight USA. Number two, the old rules. If you're shooting a factory rifle, plan on spending 2 to 3 times what you paid for the rifle for your optics. And number three, do your homework. So I have a challenge for everybody here on the podcast, every listener out there, to take your favorite brand and what I want you to do with it. So this ought to be a good one. This one is probably one of the most important podcasts that we've put out because this will cause tons of shooters heartache. I have seen it for decades on the firing line. Your optics leave you vulnerable. It is a micrometer setting on your rifle, and here quality and where you get it from matters. So without further ado, here we go. All right, before we get started, I do want to say a quick thank you to MDT. MDT is a proud sponsor of the show and maker of fine rifle chassis. They make everything from the new Oryx to the J. Allen to the MDT ACC and ACC Elite. They make lots of great aftermarket stocks for your rifle, custom or otherwise. So if you want to upgrade your rifle and you want to get it to fit you better, and if you want to get into long-range shooting, you should stop over to mdttac.com. That's mdttac.com. We'd also like to thank TriggerTech. TriggerTech is the maker of fine rifle triggers from our great friends of the North. They make 2-stage, single-stage, straight shoes, curved shoes, groove shoes, flat shoes, smooth shoes, pro shoes, as well as several different brands, models, pull weights. They really are turning into quite the trigger company, and they are making some great options for us. So we use them here in all of our custom rifles because A, they're easy to install, B, they're safe, and C, they're end user friendly to adjust. So if you want to upgrade your rifle or upgrade your game, stop over to triggertech.com. That's triggertech.com today. So we're continuing on our series on you want to get into long range shooting. And in this one, I'm going to be absolutely straightforward and honest and tell you that a couple of things we're going to talk about in this one. Number one, we're going to talk about welcome to Harbor Freight USA in the outdoor industry. Number two, the old saying of spend 2 to 3 times on your optics than you did for your rifle because it matters. It matters, and we're going to cover that. And number three, I have a challenge for you all, and so you can sort of understand where we're coming from. So let's talk about welcome to Harbor Freight USA. One of the things that shocks me about our outdoor industry, and this is across the board on a lot of your major retailers as well, is it is almost like, and I have no idea how we got this way in our industry, it is almost like walking into Harbor Freight and walking down the aisles. And I mean, I'm nothing against Harbor Freight, their business model and selling cheap tools and toolboxes and all the things that they do, but everybody knows what Harbor Freight is, right? Most of their stuff is imported from China, and it's cheap. Our outdoor industry, while we have been blinking and just paying attention to, wow, that's a much better deal, they have done the same thing to our industry. And you are the victim. You're the one paying for this. While corporate America is getting extremely wealthy off of high margins, high profit, cheap products that they are the best in the world at selling. Keep in mind, marketing is alive and well. There are people that know how to play this game, and they know who to get to. They know how to spend the money, and they know it'll come back. And so you cannot kid yourself when you go on to like some of the more popular selling websites. Like I love the fact that as they were growing, they were copying other people's products and then going overseas and having it made and brought over. I don't want to say the brand, but if I said it, you would recognize it instantly. One of them was my dear friend at Doggone Good. Doggone Good handmade, him and his wife and some friends, they made shooting bags, like 2x3x4, 4x. They were made here in the United States. They were hand sewn by a bunch of little old biddies sitting around stuffing these things, right? And they were a little expensive, $35, $45, $55, $65. So this really popular retailer online, the one that brags about giving millions of your dollars to the NRA and bragging about that they gave away millions of dollars to the NRA, went overseas, copied the pattern, and started selling it. For me, this is personal. You basically ran the guy out of business or killed his business, and the only thing you did was use his product to copy it. And that's just bullshit the whole way around. So I am not anti-China, but what I'm saying is we as Americans are allowing our poor industry, our outdoor industry, something that they don't have in China, right? Or the Philippines. We are letting it come into our country, and basically our entire industry is turning into a store like Harbor Freight, where you just walk them down the aisle, pick out cheap stuff, and you think everything's good, but you're being hoodwinked. Like, nothing makes me more angry than, like, for example, we were just talking about with some students at dinner. We had a long-range shooting school. We went out for dinner on the second night, and we were talking about pellet smokers. I love to barbecue and cook, and I like to eat good barbecue. And I started looking into buying, because I had a green egg, and they just take a lot of time to get started. So I thought, I'll get a pellet smoker, right, and try that. All these famous Texan pellet smokers, almost all of them have sold out and are manufactured in China now. And I was like, damn it, I am not buying a pellet smoker from China. Same thing with all of your grills. Same thing with, we as a nation, I think, have fallen victim in so many ways, and corporate America has got onto this. And what I find amazing is how expensive is it to have it made over there and shipped here? There's another level of cost. So how much cheaper do they actually have to be able to make it to get that thing on a container ship, bring it back here, and have it unboxed, unloaded, truck? It's not like it's paddled over. So I did my research. I bought an American-made pellet grill, and I'll give them a shout out. It's American General 2-star. Now, I didn't pay the current price of it, but when the guy had asked us, oh my God, I've had this thing for years. It makes the best, I've cooked everything on it, and it looks brand new. It's all stainless, all top of the line, and I saved. I'm not independently wealthy. I saved for this, right? And when he looked it up, he was like, oh my God, he was shocked at the price of it. And I was like, well, I didn't pay that much for it. Inflation has obviously taken it up a little bit. But the oh my God part that he didn't understand is I've had that for nearly 7 years now, and I can walk out, fire it up at any time. It's in beautiful shape. Everything inside and out is stainless. Nothing's rusting. Nothing's rotting. All the electronics work. So did it cost me more up front? Yeah, it did, actually. Was it worth every penny of it? Well, hindsight 2020, I'm going to say it was. And I feel good about buying from American-made companies or part of our group of people, I guess, our tribe. We are buying from the other tribe, right? And we got people in our tribe selling us out to the other tribe and profiteering off of it, right? Yeah. My point is that our entire industry outside of firearms is being sold out and being crushed. And what happens when it goes away? What happens when we don't have any more American made and any more American companies here making all the great products that we need, want, use, and love? They just shut the valve off. Who's going to make it? So if we don't support the companies that are still here trying to make good products, what happens when the valve gets turned off, like everything else has gotten turned off, and you can't get your hunting scope? You can't get all the parts and pieces. You can't get the clothing that you want, the good quality clothing. Yeah, that's what's happening. And it's a shame that we are fueling it, buying it, and they are laughing to the bank. The only reason firearms aren't being manufactured in China, my honest opinion is because they can't. I will guarantee it. If they said, oh yeah, we're going to allow you to manufacture them there and ship them here, I will guarantee it that they would be running to China to make it there, to bring it here, to sell it to us. You wouldn't buy your family sedan made in China. I don't think anyone that's in general aviation would feel comfortable with going and buying a Chinese, single engine airplane, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There are companies that use labor in China, which whether you agree with it or you don't, like Apple, they have an entire city that they own over there, right? And they have their quality control and their people in charge. And are iPhones a good product? Sure, okay, they work great. Would I buy Tesla made in China? I'd probably hesitate a little bit, but I'm going to say that they probably own, the entire city or town that it's made in, right? And they have their engineers and quality control and everything else. But in our industry, we're not big enough to do that. There's no scope manufacturer that owns an entire city in China. They are a small portion of that company's business, and they're being made as cheaply and as fastly as possible because that business wants to make money. I've heard horror stories of manufacturing in China, like where bits and bobs were being made while their products were being made. Their products were being modified and sold under a different brand and used in. I could talk about this for hours. But what I'm saying is that the only thing left that we make here, and it's simply because we have to, is the firearms themselves. I will guarantee it, if it wasn't for ITAR and all the other things, that they would be running over there with suitcases of cash waiting to fire up the factories and have our stuff made there. So what I'm saying here, and I think us as Americans should do this, support American companies that are making product here. Do your homework. Like, this is about optics. You would be stunned at how many high-end optics are made there. And yeah, they'll tell you the bullshit story that we inspect them, they're made to our tolerances. But if you do your research on the accuracy testing, and it's 95%, 94% accurate, that sounds great on paper, 96% accurate. But a 4% error at 1,000 yards, when you need 300 inches of travel, right? A 4% error plus or minus now turns into 8%, which turns into 8 inches per 100. And so now you got 860, you got 24 inches of error at 1,000 yards, plus or minus. So 12 inches up, 12 inches down. Is that good enough? No. So the optics I'm very passionate about because of the heartache that I've seen it cause students. I've seen students come here and just get absolutely destroyed, not because of their ability to shoot, but their scope's not tracking. They're not returning to zero. We can't even zero them, right? I had scopes here, honest to God, that we could barely keep on paper. They were just failed, locked up, stopped moving, stopped tracking, whatever. I'm around this and with rifle after rifle after rifle after rifle after all the time. And close isn't good enough. Our targets are small. Our targets are actually 5 times smaller than when we first started the school because we want to teach people how to hit small targets. And if their equipment isn't up to the task, man, it crushes them. So here a poor guy spends $2,000, comes to the school, brings his own rifle, thinks he's squared away, was told by the kid over the counter that, hey, this is the most popular scope in whatever series or competition series in the United States. Well, that's because they're the most given away to the top shooters who are also paid to shoot them, right? Advertising. You buy it, put it on your gun, you come here, and you're all over the place. Or you're at least not shooting as well as you want. Do you take the Top Gun hat? No, you don't. You don't. You wind up in the middle of the pack, right? Nobody wants to be in the middle of the pack. So let's talk about the optics. If you're shooting a factory rifle, and I'm just going to be straight with this one, plan on spending 2 to 3 times the value of the rifle. The old saying back in the 70s and 80s, and I can say that now because I'm old, is that, or the old thought processes was you should spend 2 to 3 times the value of your rifle for your optics. That was our dads and our grandfathers saying that. They said that for a reason. It's a micrometer. Think of all the really high-end micrometers that you buy right now and how expensive they are. But to tell you, all these great micrometers are really expensive. And now we've got something that's not just a mic that turns up and down, but has to tolerate recoil and getting bounced around and banged around and dropped. So our expectations is we want it to work perfectly. What we can't see is under the hood. You can't pop the hood on a scope and look underneath there and be like, what the hell is that? It looks like it came out of a Cracker Jack box, like plastic or Kevlar gearing. If you look at the quality of it. And I don't care if they're assembled here in the United States, by the way. There's a lot of scopes, a lot of brands. Almost every brand in the United States now has something made in China, with the exception, I think, of Leupold makes everything here. But even your higher-end brands here, that if they do sell an American-made product, 80% of the lower or cheaper stuff's made overseas. So if you're buying a factory rifle, and this I find amazing, right? I remember back in 1998 or 1999, I was looking at a Browning A-Bolt, and it had a thumb hold stock, and it was about $1,100. You can buy a really nice rifle right now for around $1,100. I mean, inflation hasn't really kept pace with rifles as they have everything else. Now, custom rifles, you can get in $3,000 and $4,000, which to me is still amazing, right? But if you buy a $1,000 rifle, the old saying was, or if you bought a $600 rifle back in the 70s and 80s, plan on spending $1,200 the $1,800 for your optics. That was, hey, here's the level you have to be at if you're going to get it to perform. That hasn't changed. The only thing that's changed is the rifles have stayed at the same price, and now scopes almost match the rifles. The rifles with inflation should be 2 to 3 times higher now than what they were. So if you take an $1,100 rifle, 2 to 3 times that cost would be $2,200 to $3,600. And I know to a lot of people out there, you're thinking, yeah, easy for you to say with a silver spoon in your mouth, but hey, no silver spoon here. No silver spoon here. I have worked for everything I've ever done and lots of overtime. I've put in 80, 90 hours a week just like everybody else, and I still do. And I work and save for things that I purchase. I still do. I'm not independently wealthy. So when I tell people this, it's not that I'm telling you that you have to spend this money to play our game or you don't get to play. What I'm saying is if you want to really do this and you're taking it serious and you're as passionate about it as I am, plan on saving until you can get to that level. Sell something. I mean, usually you got, a handgun, a rifle, an old thing in there you've not shot in years. It's got somebody, clean out the herd, thin the herd. Get that cash out of that and put it towards something that you're going to get tons of return on, and that is your optics. So plan on, if you buy a custom rifle, minimum, $2,000 to 22 to 26. Like a Collis is about $2,600 now to about $3,700. A Leupold Mark V is probably $1,900 to $2,100. The Vari X5, which is a really great scope, their entry level price is around $1,100 and can get in the $1,600, $1,700. So it's not like you don't have scopes to choose from that are under $2,000. You do. It might not be first focal plane. You might have some of the bells and whistles as the other scopes are touting. But plan on that. So number one, be wary that our entire poor outdoor industry has been taken over by the same people who have the Harbor Freight mentality. Bring everything in as cheap as you can, market the hell out of it, have all your celebrities tout about it, send tons of money to all the writers, keep them well fed and fat and happy, let them write a bunch of bullshit stories and sell it to you so you can spend your hard-earned money for something that is being sold to you that they paid 10% for, right? So our industry is taken over by that, with the exception of some of the rifle manufacturers, and that's simply because they cannot make anything there yet. Number two, be cautious, right? Remember that 2 to 3 time rule if you're buying a factory rifle. If you really do want to get into this and you want to have a great time doing it, save up the extra money, do your homework, but plan on spending a little bit more on that optic. You will not regret it. I promise you. We've had lots of customers come through the school here over the years that have bought Collises, right? Never had one complain about it. As a matter of fact, a lot of them say it's magical what the rifle will do, and half of it is because of the quality of the scope that's able to track and keep up with the rifle. Why put bald tires on your car, right? You wouldn't put, Pep Boy tires to put on your race car to go driving around the track at 200 mile an hour. But you're asking your rifle to do that. You're buying a race car, in the sense you're buying a rifle that you intend to do at that next level that most people don't shoot at, whether it's competition or long range. And then you put Pep Boy tires on it, and that's your scope. So that's number two. Number three, I have a challenge for you. Now, before I get to the challenge, I do want to say thank you to Krieger Barrels. Krieger is the maker of fine cut rifle barrels. They're made in the great state of Wisconsin. They are a fantastic family-owned and operated business that makes world-class barrels. They also have a new program called Krieger Direct, where you can log on, order your barrel, and have it in as little as 2 to 3 business days. So if you do want the best and you want it now, stop over to KriegerDirect.com. That's KriegerDirect.com. So here's where I challenge you at. Do your research and find out what companies have sold out, and don't do business with them. Support the last surviving outdoor industry here. Ask the questions. These are American dollars. You are an American worker, a laborer. You have traded your lifetime and effort from everything that you love in life to do to earn that money, including part of your life. Spend it here so other people here can stay in business and keep serving and keep doing. I don't want to be the voice for America saying that we need to come back and start supporting our own companies, but our outdoor industry, we are so unique in the world in our love of the outdoors. Now, don't get me wrong. There are hunters all over the world. You've got European hunters, you've got Russian hunters, I get that, right? But why are we letting other industries come here and take over ours? And these aren't people in our industry, they're in our industry to take money out of your pocket. So do your research, like Leupold, who's been accused many times of selling out, have hundreds, if not thousands, of employees going to work every day, manufacturing and building rifle scopes, right? I always remind people that you don't subcontract the work. In other words, no one's going to build a product like you are. And the only time you're ever going to let somebody else build this product for you is for two reasons. They can do it better than you, or it's more profitable for you to send it elsewhere and you get to make more money off of it. They can do it cheaper, they can do it faster, and you can make more money. You need to ask yourself, in these industries, are they selling these Chinese and Philippine-made optics here in the United States because we can't make them at that level? That they can't make that quality of a product here? That we have to go over there because they're so much better at making these things than we are? Or are they sending them over there simply because they can have them made there cheaper and faster and they can make more money? And if you can answer that question, that it's only about cheaper, faster, and more money, you get what you pay for. The consequences aren't always horrific. You might get a decent optic, sure. But you're rolling the dice and you're supporting them to continue on shutting down other companies that are here because they're selling the market on price, not quality. Check out your favorite brand that's on your rifle today. I'm going to challenge you. Do your research. You'll be stunned. I mean, and you'll read these companies, assembled in the USA or so-and-so's. This line is made here, but everything else, is made in China. They still make this one. This is a premier product. It's still made here. Is it still made here or is it assembled here? Is all the products brought in and they put the end caps on and throw it in a box, assembled in the United States? Where's come on, they play word games with everything that's from our food to anything else that we consume or use. There's word play and games and all of this stuff, right? Why wouldn't you assume that that's in the scope industry as well? And again, I'm not bashing the scope industry. What I'm saying is I've watched many people suffer the consequences of these decisions here at my school. So I've watched customers come here with hard-earned money and leave just completely devastated. Most of the time, we just get them a school rifle, and we're saying, look, just put that gun away. Let's get you on a rifle that's going to perform so you can enjoy yourself here. That's what you're doing it for anyway. Aren't you doing it to enjoy yourself? So in this area, if nothing else, in this area, do your homework, do your research, make sure that you're, buying the best that you can, but make sure if you can, find out where it's made. And if you can, get one that's made here in the United States. I don't know why that's such a crime to ask or why the industry has sort of mummed the word at all these great outdoor events. I mean, if you go to any of the big outdoor events like the NRA Annual or SHOT Show, and you look at some of these booths, and you're like, good God, that's got to be $100,000 booth. It is. Paid for by you. And the massive amounts of profits that they're pulling off the products that they're selling you made cheaply in China. So, optics. Factory gun, 2 to 3 times. Plan on spending that. You will thank yourself later, your future self. If you're buying a custom rifle, make sure you do your homework and get a scope that tracks, that has a record, that is just the best that you can afford, and you will thank yourself later. In the next podcast, we're going to get into bits and bobs. So we're going to talk about rings, and we're going to talk about bases, and we're going to talk about all the accessories that you can purchase and buy. And in the next podcast, I'm not going to bring up the China-made junk anymore or the Filipino-made. I'm not going to bring any of that up. And by the way, it's nothing against the Chinese people or the Filipino people. I'm not saying that they're to blame. I am saying that our corporations and our corporate greed, sending our jobs and things overseas to have things made cheaply and brought back here and sold at a premium price, just like how many other companies have done, right? Can't expect them to not do the same. Look at Walmart, look at Harbor Freight. I mean, they've all made billions of dollars doing this. So what makes you think that our outdoor industry wouldn't do the same? And by the way, most of your hunters and shooters spend a little bit more money than a $100 sweeper at Walmart, right? We're spending thousands and thousands of dollars. So it is a much, much bigger cash cow if they can grab into it. A lot of your major retailers, just like Walmart did, without saying any names, because so God knows you'll be sued the Mars and back again. But I am telling you, one of the companies, I actually can't stand them because I know some of the things that they've done to people that I know, products that they've ripped off and sent overseas for little mom and pop business. We're talking a retired police officer, his wife, and 3 little old biddies that were seamstresses. I mean, that's just dirty. And this guy that you always see on TV about his millions of dollars he's donated to the NRA, and, let me show you how that's done. Well, why don't you show us how it's done? Why don't you show us? He rolled by with a security team that looked like he was the president of the United States. He was blinged out with the best outfit on. He was like the original gangster of retails in the outdoor industry. And the whole time I'm thinking, you piece of shit, I know a retired police officer, his wife, and 3 little old biddies that were selling these bags for years that you brought on, said that you wanted to sell them, took a bunch of orders from them, and then just copied them and had them made in China and brought here and sold them. So you can wear your fancy cowboy boots and hats and parade around here like a true Texan, right? So, yeah, that gets offensive to me when you start to know the people that these people hurt or they put out of business. And some people say, well, it's just competition. It's just a natural order of things. But look, honesty and integrity, if you're worth that much money, buy a bigger quantity of them. Retire. The guy was a police officer, for crying out loud, back in the 70s and 80s when they didn't make shit. And there you go and rip them off. Way to go. So I can't stand a company. I can't stand to buy anything from them. And I certainly don't really like to look at them because I know the people that they hurt. As you can tell, pretty passionate about this stuff. And it's not for any selfish reason. It's because I love what I do. I love the outdoor industry. I love shooting. I love sharing it with people. I love the joy it brings them and happiness and the experiences with the father-son and father-daughter teams coming here, husband-wives teams coming here, and things that take that away a lot of times is the corporate America behind the scenes. So I won't preach on this anymore. My last challenge to you before we end this podcast here and give some updates is I want you to go and find your favorite optics or the ones that are on your rifle. I don't care how high-end it is. And I want you to do your research and see where it's made. I think you'll be surprised. Anyway, some quick updates. So we do have our online long-range shooting school in full swing. We just posted up episode 44. If you would like to join us on our online long-range shooting school, it is our in-person shooting school. We designed it that you can actually attend our class from the comfort and convenience of your own home. And of course, it's only at a small monthly fee. So we certainly appreciate those that have signed up for the class. Episode 45 will be starting this week. We're filming the shooting portions of it now. So lots of great content. By the time it's all said and done, we should have nearly over 100 videos posted and probably hundreds of hours. So it's going to be an ongoing contribution on our end to share as much information as we can. Another quick update, we'd like to thank everybody that's joined us on our Wolfpack. If you want to support the show, we really appreciate it. You can stop over to patreon.com, and for $3 a month, you can support the show and be a member of the team. We certainly always appreciate that as well. If you're into long-range shooting or you're into the outdoor industry and you enjoy the show, please leave us a really nice comment. It helps us a lot in our ratings. And if you know somebody in the outdoor industry, we really would like to ask you to share this podcast, especially for those that love what we do, right? And all of us in the outdoor industry. I think there needs to be more people sounding the alarm saying, look, we need to stop having the marketing world crush us and steal every dollar out of our pocket for them to profiteer and sell us garbage. And I think we need to support more American companies that are building just world-class quality products here while they're being ripped off by these other people stealing their ideas and taking it overseas and having it made cheaper and then coming back and using it against them. Me, I try to do that in everything that we purchase. I try to make sure where it's from. I try to do the best I can do to try to buy American made if I can. And I think I shocked a customer the other day when I found one pellet maker that American General 2-star, which by the way, they've never asked for a plug, but I will tell you the best pellet smoker I've ever purchased. And they make a 1-star, 2-star, and 3-star. American made, just top shelf quality, can't say enough good. And, I cried just like everybody else when I bought it. It was really expensive compared to everything else you could purchase. But I will say that I've enjoyed it for 7 years, and I don't regret that purchase. Every time I go out and fire it up and clean it or whatever, I'm like, wow, that was a really, really good decision on our part. Plus, we're supporting a family-owned American company at the same time, which to me means just as much. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join the show. We really appreciate it. The next So You Want to Get Into Long Range Shooting podcast is going to be on all the accessories. And in this one, I will not rant and rave as much about all the import junk, but just try to point out some of the things that you should be looking at and some of the things that are really critical to make sure that you get quality. That way you get out of the gate on the right foot to start your path on learning and enjoying the art of long-range shooting. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. My name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you're listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.